SVGs may seem simple, but they are quite powerful. Hello again, friends. It's good to see you after a long time. Today, we are going to build an interactive map application using Flutter and SVG. Following this tutorial, you will be able to convert any valid SVG path into an interactive map inside Flutter. So let's get started. Here I have a brand new Flutter project and I have set up few things. First, I have a simple SVG file here. This is what it looks like. This is a map of Bagmati province of Nepal. Next, I have also updated PubSpec.yaml file to include this asset. In order to make it work, we need two dependencies. Let's add those. So we will need XML to parse SVG file because SVG file is simply an XML document as well. And path drawing allows us to draw paths easily by parsing it from SVG path data. First, so let's create a Flutter stateful widget that I will call map screen. Next thing we want to do is, first we want to parse our SVG file using XML and then load all the path data from it. In order to do that, let us set up some functions. So path will be the path of our file, which is assets map.svg. Let's load this SVG as a string. Next, let us parse this using XML parser. Next, we want all the path elements only. So now we'd like to take each of these paths and convert it into a usable object that we can use in our widget to display. Let's create a data type for it. For I want to get the ID attribute of each path element. For this reason, I have set ID element to each of the path element that I want to parse. So if part ID doesn't exist, if ID attribute doesn't exist, I simply skip the path. I don't want to show it in the map. Get attribute D to a string. If you look at the SVG file, every path tag or path element has a D attribute that saves the actual path of the SVG element. So let's create an empty variable to hold the list of regions. Let's add each region to our regions list, and this will simply return regions. This can be const. So we have a function that, given a SVG file, will load all the path element that has ID attribute into a region object. To show a map, a best widget will be interactive viewer widget. So that is what we are going to use, interactive viewer widget. And to build the map, we will use stack widget. Let's provide some attributes to our interactive viewer widget. Next thing we would want to do is, we would want to load these regions in our init state. Let's create a init state function. Let's also create a property here, load regions. Next, we will build our map in the stack using this list of regions. For that we will use get region image. Let's create this function. Let's pass in region here. We'll simply return container at the moment. How we are going to build this map is using custom clipper or path clipper and container. So we would be wrapping container with a path clipper, and the path clipper's path will be obtained by parsing the path data we got from SVG. So let's first build our clipper. Alright, in order to obtain our clipper path, we are simply calling a function parse SVG path data that comes from path drawing package. This will parse the SVG path data string that we got from a SVG file into a Flutter readable path object. Let's give our container some color. Let's give it gray. Let's wrap this with a clip path. Clipper will be region clipper, and we'll send in the path for our region. Next, we want to change the color whenever we click on any specific path. So what we can do is we can wrap this with a gesture detector, and on tap. For now, let's simply print region.id so that we know which ID or which region we tapped on. Let's run this project. Hello world. Let's switch to our wizard here. Map is screen. What's happening? It's built. Calling load regions. Yes. We also need to call set state here. Set state. This regions, we have all the 12 regions loaded. If you look at it, we now have our map drawn here. If we click in the individual path, we can see the correct ID being printed. However, we want to be able to highlight each of these regions when we click on them. So to do that, we can simply create a variable called selected region, and then here let's pass optional color attribute. So default will be colors.gray. Here we use color instead of that. Here set state, what we want to do, we want to set the selected region equals to region, and here what we want to do is, while sending the color, if selected region is not equal to null, let's do this, selected region dot id equals dot id. If it matches the current region, then green, otherwise colors dot gray. Okay, let's see. Let's on pause. Now we can click to highlight each region. Next, if you remember my demo, I also had a border drawn around each region. Let's see how we can do that. We already have a way to parse SVG path into Flutter recognizable path. All we need to do is draw this path using custom painter with a stroke paint. So let's see how we can do that. Let's create a painter first. We'll call it region border painter. It extends custom painter. Let's create the missing overrides. Let's accept a Flutter path. Let's create a paint for border paint. Let's create fills. Let's define our paint. So style should be stroke. So we want to paint only stroke. Stroke width I want to be 1, and finally I want black colors, and in the paint we can simply do canvas draw path and our border paint. So this will simply draw the border. Should repaint, just simply return false. In order to show the border, what we can do, let's change this into a for syntax. It should give the same result. Next, along with the region image, we also want to paint the border, and that we can do. Let's create another function. Here we will return custom paint reset, and painter will be our region border painter. This requires a path parsed by SVG path parser, so we just call parse and then pass in region path. This should now also draw the border for our regions. So now we have a complete interactive map with both the borders and background painted. Using the interactive viewer widget, we can zoom in and zoom out as we like. This is all for today's episode. I hope this information was very useful to you. You can find the code for this tutorial in my GitHub repository. Link is provided in the description below. You can also find the link to a written tutorial that explains this, which you can get back to anytime you like. Thank you everyone. See you again in the next video.